The Beta Caltharian Third Armada moved through the Proxima Nebula like sharks sensing blood in the water. 47 warships formed a perfect hunting formation, their crimson hulls gleaming with the arrogance of a species that had never known defeat. At the center of this deadly constellation floated the flagship Dominion's Wrath, a massive dreadnought that had personally overseen the conquest of 16 different star systems. Admiral Keth Vex stood on the command bridge, his 6 arms moving across holographic displays with practiced precision. His reptilian features showed the satisfaction of a predator who had cornered his prey. The Caltharians had been hunting humans for 8 months now, ever since the foolish primates had dared to establish colonies in what the Empire considered their territory. Every encounter had ended the same way. Human ships would appear, fire their primitive weapons, then either flee in terror or burn in the void of space. Admiral called out sensor operator Zilch from his station, his voice carrying the bored tone of routine patrol duty. "We have a contact bearing 27 Mark 9, single vessel, human configuration." Vex's predatory eyes focused on the main display. A small dot appeared on the tactical screen, drifting slowly through a debris field that had once been the human research station. Kepler 7. The Caltharians had destroyed that outpost 4 months ago, leaving nothing but twisted metal and frozen corpses as a warning to other human settlements. "Ship classification," Vex demanded, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. "Appears to be a human military vessel, sir. Configuration matches their Lazarus-class destroyer. Length approximately 400 meters. Mass readings indicate standard human construction materials." Zilch worked his controls, gathering more data. "Admiral, there's something unusual about this vessel." "Explain." "No active power signatures detected. No engine emissions. No communications. No life support readings. The ship appears to be completely dead, sir. Hull temperature matches the surrounding space debris." Commander Threx approached from the tactical station. He was younger than Vex, but had earned his rank through brutal efficiency in the early human campaigns. "Another derelict, Admiral. The galaxy is becoming littered with their failures." Vex studied the sensor readings more carefully. The human vessel showed extensive battle damage across its hull. Scorch marks from plasma weapons created dark patterns along its sides. Several sections appeared to have been blown open by internal explosions. One of the engine nacelles hung at an unnatural angle, clearly beyond repair. "How long has it been drifting?" Vex asked. "Based on trajectory analysis and the debris field pattern, I estimate 3 to 4 weeks, sir," Zilch reported. "The vessel was likely damaged during our assault on Kepler 7 and has been drifting dead in space ever since." The bridge crew began to murmur among themselves. Officers shared stories of previous encounters with human vessels, each tale emphasizing the primitive nature of human technology and the cowardice of human crews. Lieutenant Korax mentioned how human ships would often surrender immediately upon detecting Caltharian forces. Another officer described watching human vessels explode after taking minimal damage from Caltharian weapons. "Sir, should we investigate?" Commander Threx asked. "The vessel might contain useful intelligence data, fleet movements, base locations, troop dispositions." Vex considered this suggestion. The ship was clearly no threat, but human tactical information could prove valuable for planning future offensive operations. The location of their hidden bases, their remaining fleet strength, their defensive capabilities, such intelligence would help the Caltharians complete their conquest of human space more efficiently. "Bring us closer," he ordered. "Full sensor." Sweep, I want to know everything about that pathetic wreck. The Dominion's wrath changed course, and the rest of the Armada followed in perfect formation. As they approached the drifting human vessel, more details became visible on the tactical displays. The ship designated US Lazarus hung motionless in space, turning slowly end over end like a piece of floating debris. Its hull was dark, except for a few emergency lights that flickered weakly near what appeared to be escape pod launch bays. Scanning. Now, Admiral, reported Science Officer Veth from her station. No life signs detected anywhere aboard the vessel. Internal temperature is approaching absolute zero. Atmosphere has been vented from multiple hull breaches. The ship has been dead. For weeks, weapon systems. Threx inquired, checking his own tactical readings. Completely offline, sir. Main guns are powered down, missile launchers are empty, point defense systems are inactive. Even their main reactor appears to have shut down completely. This vessel poses no threat whatsoever. One of the younger officers at a communications station started laughing. Look at it, Admiral. It's like a human coffin floating in space. Their precious destroyer reduced to a tomb for its crew. The description caught the attention of other bridge officers. Within minutes, the entire command crew was referring to the Lazarus as the human coffin. The term spread quickly through the Armada's communication channels. Soon, captains throughout the fleet were making jokes about the pathetic human coffin they had discovered drifting helplessly in space. Sir, shall we destroy it? Asked Threx. Standard protocol requires elimination of all human military assets, even derelicts. Vex waved a dismissive hand. No, this wreck might contain valuable data. We'll bring it aboard for detailed examination. The Intelligence Division has been requesting more human technology samples for analysis. Very well, Admiral. Shall I prepare a boarding party? Unnecessary. The ship is clearly dead. We'll use tractor beams to bring it into our primary cargo bay. Much simpler than risking crew members on a floating tomb. Orders went out to the engineering teams. The Dominion's wrath was massive enough to accommodate smaller vessels in its cavernous cargo holds. Capturing the human destroyer would be routine work for the ship's powerful tractor beam systems. As the Caltherian Armada took position around the drifting Lazarus, the mood throughout the fleet remained celebratory. Officers continued making jokes about the human coffin and speculated about how the crew had died. Some suggested they had frozen to death when life support failed. Others thought they might have suffocated when atmosphere leaked through battle damage. A few believed the humans had simply abandoned ship when they realized they faced Caltherian forces. None of them considered that the crew might still be alive, deep inside the Lazarus, in sections shielded by experimental metamaterials that Caltherian sensors could not penetrate. Systems that had been waiting patiently for weeks began to respond to proximity alarms. Emergency protocols activated automatically. Hidden power sources came online with the silence of technology far more advanced than anything the Caltherians had encountered. In the ship's medical bay, cryostasis pods that had kept their occupants imperfect, suspended animation for 26 days, started their carefully programmed revival cycles. Captain Sarah Chen opened her eyes in the darkness and smiled coldly. The trap was working exactly as planned. The tractor beam from the Dominions, wrath reached out like an invisible hand and seized the drifting US Lazarus. The human destroyer began moving slowly toward the massive Caltherian flagship, its apparently dead hull reflecting the crimson glow from the alien vessels surrounding it. Tractor beam locked, Admiral, reported the engineering officer. Estimated time to cargo bay docking is 42 minutes. Admiral Vex activated the fleet communication channel, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. All ships, this is Admiral Vex. We have secured another example of human military incompetence. The vessel appears to be a standard destroyer that suffered catastrophic systems failure during combat operations. Laughter echoed through the communication system from ships throughout the Armada. Captain Zorax of the heavy cruiser Bloodtide was first to respond. Admiral, shall we prepare a museum display for the human coffin, perhaps with a detailed explanation of their inferior engineering capabilities? An excellent suggestion, Captain, Vex replied with satisfaction. Commander Threx, begin recording comprehensive scans of the vessel. I want complete documentation of every system, failure, and structural weakness. This data will prove invaluable for future encounters with human forces. Threx moved to his station and initiated the scanning process. Beginning detailed analysis now, sir. The damage patterns are consistent with our plasma weapon signatures. Multiple hull breaches, power, grid failures, life support collapse. It appears the humans attempted emergency repairs, but ultimately failed to save their ship. Of course they failed, laughed sensor operator Zilch. Human technology is held together with desperation and false hope. Their ships fall apart if you breathe on them too hard. The bridge crew continued their commentary as the Lazarus slowly approached the cargo bay. Officers shared additional stories from previous battles where human ships had exploded after taking minimal damage. Some described how human crews would broadcast surrender messages immediately upon detecting Caltharian forces approaching their positions. I served aboard the Void Reaper during the Battle of Wolf 359, said Communications Officer Karat. The humans sent 18 ships against our squadron of 5 cruisers. We destroyed 16 of them in our opening salvo. The remaining 2 tried to retreat, but their jump drives failed during the escape attempt. Typical human reliability, added another officer. Their equipment malfunctions precisely when they need it most desperately. Admiral Vex allowed the conversation to continue. His crew deserved to celebrate their superiority. 8 months of warfare had proven beyond any doubt that humans were no match for Caltharian military might. The species was too young, too primitive, too weak to challenge the established galactic order. Admiral, I'm detecting some minor energy fluctuations. From the human vessel, Zilch reported from his sensor station. Brief power spikes in what appears to be their reactor section. What type of fluctuations? Very faint, sir. Probably residual energy in their emergency battery systems. Some human ships have backup power supplies that can operate for weeks after main power fails completely. Threx examined his own tactical displays. I see the readings. Nothing significant. Standard emergency lighting and basic monitoring systems. The kind of automated functions that continue running even on a completely dead ship. Continue monitoring, Vex ordered. Report any changes immediately. The Admiral opened a direct channel to the fleet's intelligence division. Commander Jacketh, prepare your analysis teams for a comprehensive intelligence sweep of the human vessel. I want every data core examined, every computer system stripped, every piece of technology catalogued and studied. Understood, Admiral. How long do we have for the operation? Take as much time as necessary. We are in no particular hurry to rejoin the main fleet. This discovery could provide crucial insights into human military capabilities and strategic planning on the communication channels between ships throughout the Armada. Jokes about the human coffin continued. Officers competed to devise the most creative insults about human engineering and military doctrine. The escort ship captains began placing bets on how many more dead human ships they would encounter during their patrol sweep of the sector. "I propose we broadcast our discovery on all standard frequencies," suggested Captain Morick of the cruiser. "Steel Fang, let any monitoring human outposts know that we have found another example of their pathetic failures." Vex considered this suggestion. Broadcasting to human monitoring posts was standard psychological warfare doctrine. It reminded the enemy of their weakness and systematically damaged their morale throughout their remaining territories. Approved communications. Prepare a general broadcast on all human military frequencies. Kerak worked at his station for several minutes before reporting ready. "Channel open, Admiral." "Attention human forces," Vex began, his voice carrying the cold authority of absolute confidence. "This is Admiral Vex of the Caltharian Third Armada. We have discovered another example of your military incompetence drifting helplessly in space. The vessel you designate US Lazarus suffered complete systems failure and has been abandoned by your cowardly forces like a piece of worthless debris." He paused to let this information sink in before continuing. "Your ship is now our property. We will study its primitive technology and add its remains to our growing collection of human failures. This is the inevitable fate of all who dare challenge Caltharian superiority." The message was transmitted across multiple frequencies, ensuring that any human monitoring stations within 60 light-years would receive it clearly. Similar broadcasts had been sent after every major Caltharian victory, systematically crushing human morale across their scattered territories. Message transmitted. Admiral Karak confirmed. Repeating on all standard bands. Excellent. Now we wait for their response. But no response came from human space. The communication channels remained silent except for normal background chatter of commerce and civilian traffic. This was somewhat unusual. Typically, human military commanders would demand the return of their vessel or issue empty threats of retaliation. "Perhaps they have finally accepted the futility of their situation," suggested Threx. "This ship has been drifting for nearly a month without any rescue attempt. Or perhaps they have finally learned wisdom through repeated defeats," added Zilch. 8 months of losses have taught them the pointlessness of challenging us." The US Lazarus continued its slow journey toward the cargo bay of the Dominion's Wrath. Through the massive observation windows, crew members could watch the human ship approaching. It looked even more pathetic at close range. The hull was scarred and blackened by weapon impacts. Several gun ports had been blown completely open. One of the engine sections hung at an unnatural angle, clearly damaged beyond any possibility of repair. 15 minutes to docking," announced the engineering officer. Admiral Vex moved to the observation deck to get a better view of their prize. The human coffin would make an excellent addition to the Fleet Museum. Future generations of Caltharian warriors would be able to study this perfect example of human weakness and understand why their species had been chosen to rule the galaxy. Deep inside the Lazarus, in sections that Caltharian technology could not scan or detect, systems that had been dormant for weeks were slowly returning to full operational status. Emergency power flowed through hidden conduits constructed from metamaterials that remained invisible to enemy sensors. In the ship's medical bay, cryostasis pods hissed softly as they completed their carefully timed revival sequences. Captain Sarah Chen and her hand-picked crew were waking up, but their ship's advanced stealth systems ensured this process remained completely hidden from the enemy. The tractor beam continued, pulling the Lazarus closer to what the Caltharians believed would be its final resting place. But neither the human ship nor its crew were as helpless as they appeared to be. The hunters become hunted captain, Sarah Chen, felt the familiar tingle of cryo-revival flooding through her nervous system as the stasis pod's life support systems brought her body back to full consciousness. The process was designed to be gentle but efficient, raising her core temperature while flooding her bloodstream with stimulants and nutrients. Her eyes opened to the soft red glow of emergency lighting, but her mind was already sharp and focused. The emergency protocols had functioned flawlessly. When the Lazarus had encountered the Caltharian patrol 4 weeks ago, Chen had ordered her entire crew into cryostasis, while the ship's experimental artificial intelligence assumed complete control. The AI had been programmed by Dr. Elizabeth Kane to wait patiently for exactly this scenario. An enemy fleet discovering what appeared to be a helpless human derelict. Chen activated the control panel beside her pod and heard the quiet hiss of the lid retracting. Emergency lighting cast an amber glow throughout the medical bay as she sat up and checked her vital signs on the pod's integrated display. Heart rate, blood pressure, neural activity, everything was within normal parameters. The cryostasis process had preserved her perfectly throughout the long wait. Around her, other pods were beginning their own carefully synchronized revival sequences. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison opened his eyes. In the pod adjacent to hers, her tactical officer and the best combat pilot she had ever served with, Sergeant Maria Santos, was stirring in another pod across the medical bay, her chief of security and an expert in close-quarters combat. One by one, the crew of the Lazarus was awakening to find themselves in the heart of an enemy fleet. "Captain," Morrison whispered as he climbed from his pod, his voice barely audible. "Status report. We're being tracked by a Caltharian flagship." Chen replied quietly, her words carrying the satisfaction of a plan proceeding exactly as designed. "Probably their entire third armada, based on the sensor readings we collected before going dark. They think we're a helpless derelict drifting in space." Santos smiled grimly in the amber light. "Perfect, just like Dr. Kane predicted they would." The Lazarus's experimental artificial intelligence had been monitoring the tactical situation throughout the entire 4-week period of apparent helplessness. It had recorded every Caltharian transmission, tracked their fleet movements and formations, analyzed their communication protocols, and studied their tactical patterns. Now it was feeding this comprehensive intelligence directly to Chen through her neural interface implant. 47 ships, she thought as the data flowed smoothly into her consciousness. 1 dreadnought flagship, 12 heavy cruisers, 30 escort vessels. They've been broadcasting insults about our pathetic human coffin for the past 2 hours. Standard Caltharian arrogance and overconfidence. More crew members were awakening throughout different sections of the ship. In the engineering department, Dr. Marcus Reed was climbing from his cryopod and moving immediately to his control station. The experimental systems he had spent 3 years developing in absolute secrecy were finally going to be tested under real combat conditions. "Computer, initiate Ghost Protocol activation sequence," Reed whispered into his communicator, his voice so quiet it was almost inaudible. "Ghost Protocol acknowledged," replied the AI in a synthesized voice that could barely be heard. "All experimental systems responding within normal parameters. Quantum field generators at standby power levels. Estimated time to full operational. Status, 21 minutes. The Ghost Protocol was the primary reason the Lazarus existed. On official records, it was listed as a standard military destroyer with conventional weapons and defensive systems. In reality, it was the most advanced weapons platform humanity had ever constructed. The ship's true capabilities were concealed behind multiple layers of classified technology that made it appear completely ordinary to enemy sensors and analysis. Reed moved silently through the engineering section, checking systems that the Caltharians had no idea existed. The quantum field generators represented humanity's greatest technological breakthrough, exotic energy manipulation devices capable of generating destructive force patterns that could bypass conventional shields and armor plating. The technology was so revolutionary that only for people in the entire human military truly understood its theoretical principles. Dr. Reed to Captain Chen, he whispered into his communicator, "Quantum field generators are coming online. All experimental weapon systems are responding normally. We'll be ready for full combat operations in 18 minutes. Acknowledged. Doctor maintains silent running protocols until I give the activation order." Chen made her way quietly through the ship's corridors, moving toward the command bridge. The Lazarus had been designed specifically for this type of deception operation. Its internal layout included hidden passages and shielded compartments that allowed the crew to move throughout the vessel without being detected by external sensors. The Caltharians scanning their ship would see only what the humans wanted them to see. On the bridge, the rest of her senior staff was taking their positions at control stations that had been disguised to appear damaged and non-functional. Commander Lisa Park, her science officer, was running final diagnostics on the sensor systems. Lieutenant Tommy Wu, her communications specialist, was monitoring Caltharian fleet transmissions and preparing for electronic warfare operations. "Captain, on the bridge," Morrison announced quietly as Chen took her position in the command chair. "Status report, all departments," she ordered, keeping her voice low. "Tactical systems operational and ready," Morrison reported. "All weapon systems armed and targeted. We have firing solutions on all 47 enemy vessels. Engineering department ready for full power activation," came Reed's voice through the communicator. "Ghost protocol will be fully operational in 14 minutes. Communications monitoring enemy transmissions," Wu reported. "They're still referring to us as their human Coffin and making jokes about our supposed system failures. Standard Caltharian arrogance. Science department has completed detailed scans of their fleet formation," Park added. "I've identified their flagship, command structure, and primary tactical weaknesses. The data is being fed to tactical systems now." Chen studied the tactical displays that were now coming online throughout the bridge. The Caltharian Armada had arranged itself in a perfect hunting formation around the Lazarus, completely confident that they faced no threat from the apparently dead human ship. Their flagship Dominion's Wrath was positioned directly ahead, its massive tractor beam pulling the Lazarus steadily toward its cargo bay. "Time to docking?" Chen asked. 11 minutes, Captain," Morrison replied. "They're planning to bring us completely aboard their flagship for detailed examination." "Perfect. That puts us exactly where we want to be." Chen activated her command console and began entering authorization codes for the Ghost Protocol. "Dr. Reed, begin final activation. Sequence. I want full power available the moment we're inside their cargo bay." "Acknowledged, Captain. Beginning final startup procedures now." Throughout the ship, systems that had been hidden in dormant mode for 4 weeks began coming to life. The quantum field generators started their power-up cycle, drawing energy. From fusion reactors that were shielded by metamaterial technology the Caltharians could not detect. Weapon systems designed by humanity's most brilliant scientists prepared for their first real combat test. The Lazarus had been built around a simple but revolutionary concept. What if humans could turn their greatest perceived weakness into their ultimate strength? The Caltharians believed humans were primitive and weak, that human technology was inferior and unreliable. This operation would teach them the danger of underestimating human ingenuity and determination. "Captain, I'm detecting increased activity in their cargo bay," Park reported from her science station. "They're preparing docking clamps and atmospheric processors. They really are planning to bring us completely inside their ship." "Excellent. That will minimize collateral damage to their crew areas when we begin our attack. We want to disable their ship, not massacre everyone aboard." Chen had spent months planning this operation with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The goal was not simply to destroy the Caltharian fleet, but to send a message that would fundamentally change the enemy's perception of human capabilities. The Lazarus would demonstrate that humanity possessed technology and tactical thinking far more advanced than the Caltharians had imagined. "5 minutes to docking, Captain," Morrison announced. "All systems are showing green across the board." "Dr. Reed, status of the Ghost Protocol." "Quantum field generators at 97% power. All weapon systems armed and ready. Metamaterial camouflage holding steady. They still can't detect our true capabilities." Chen took a deep breath and prepared to give the order that would change everything. "All hands. This is the captain. Prepare for Ghost Protocol activation on my mark. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves today. We are fighting to show the galaxy that humanity refuses to be conquered." The Lazarus was now less than 2 minutes from entering the cargo bay of the Dominion's Wrath. The Caltharian crew was still making jokes about their pathetic human coffin, completely unaware that they were about to face technology that would redefine their understanding of human potential. "Ghost Protocol standing by for activation," Reed reported. "Weapons systems ready for engagement," Morrison confirmed. "All departments report ready for combat operations," Park announced. Chen watched the tactical display as the Lazarus moved closer to the enemy flagship. In less than 60 seconds, the trap would be sprung. The hunters were about to discover they had captured something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. 30 seconds to cargo bay entry, Morrison called out. The moment of truth was approaching. For weeks of patient waiting, months of careful planning, years of secret development work, everything was about to be tested in actual combat. The Caltharians thought they had found another example of human weakness and failure. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. 10 seconds, Captain. Chen placed her hand on the activation control and prepared to show the galaxy what human determination could accomplish. "Mark," she commanded. "Activate Ghost Protocol. All weapons engage at will." The sleeping dragon opened its eyes, and the Caltharian Third Armada was about to experience the shock of their lives.